Okay, so we've talked about Twitch's hypocrisy at length over the past couple days. Last Friday, we saw the nonstop. It got flagged that Hassan had pretty much called for the death of a guy named Rick Scott, who was a Republican senator. And in response to that, Hassan was banned, suspended off of Twitch, which was like, wow, okay, there's actually a suspension happening here. Now, Kirsche, have you been following this story? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you stream on Twitch. You co-stream on YouTube and on Twitch. Yeah. What's your experience? Do you feel like you have to hold your tongue at all on things you say on Twitch?
Unironically, I feel like I have more freedom of speech on Twitch than I do on YouTube. Okay. I've gotten like hate crimed on YouTube where they're just like, oh, you're using hate speech and so your video is blocked and you can't have it here. So I've had to appeal that like a couple of times on YouTube, but on Twitch, I've been able to say pretty much anything I want. Like, I mean, I don't slur, obviously, like I have sponsors to think about, but I've been able to say like my unfiltered opinions as much as possible. And I've had way less issues with it on Twitch than on YouTube, which is very weird to me because like Twitch isn't good for free speech either. Right. So it's just like when I see things like Asmongold getting, a super long ban for what he said, and then things like Hassan not getting in trouble regardless of how much he promotes like terrorist propaganda, right? It just seems like that is a little bit unfair to me, obviously. And I guess like Hassan is their golden child where like they either completely agree with him or he makes them so much money that they just don't want to do anything to him. But even like the money argument kind of falls apart when you think about how much Asmongold would bring in. And I mean, there was a while where he was like, yeah, I don't want to monetize my second channel because I want to have Twitch lose as much money as possible. And it's like, that's based, honestly. But eventually they forced him to do it. And I think that's also why they're trying to roll out like affiliate to basically everyone, because that means they're going to be able to slap ads on absolutely everyone's channel. And Twitch is not known for good decisions.
Right. Well, here's what he said the other day.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid, just in fraud alone. No.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him a prominent part of the Republican Party.
But that doesn't even make any sense, though. Like,
no, it doesn't. But he called for it, and he violated Section 10 of the contract, the terms of service over on Twitch. And he then was suspended for a massive 24 hours.
You know, Craig, I think you're being a little too harsh here. I think you really got to think about how this isn't actually, a call to action or any kind of like violent speech. This is merely a fiery but mostly peaceful statement.
That's right. Mostly peaceful. That's right. for the most part. Well, it was interesting because going back, there's been a feud between Hassan and his former podcast co-host Ethan Klein, and Ethan Klein dropped what he calls a content nuke. Did you see that video, the 90-minute little mini doc?
I did not watch the 90-minute mini doc, but I did know that Ethan Klein had been playing like Hassan's clips on Twitch, and for playing Hassan's clips that Hassan only got a 24-hour ban for, Ethan Klein got 30 days.
Correct. Can you still see everything on screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So this happened yesterday as he was playing the content nuke on loop on his Twitch channel. He said, I'll just let this video play for itself here.
My God. It got banned for encouraging or glorifying extreme violence.
Whoa.
That's fucking wow. That's Hassan's content that's on your platform that he didn't get in trouble for. Holy fuck.
Interesting.
Whoa! You guys don't believe me? Look at that
too. I believe you.
See, this is why I think the argument about like, oh, Hassan makes them too much money and that's why they don't apply the rules fairly to him falls apart, because like Ethan Klein is someone who would make Twitch a ton of money as well. Asmongold is someone who makes Twitch a ton of money. And if these people are still held to some kind of TOS standard that's obviously still lesser than someone like me would be beholden to, the fact that Hassan gets 24 hours and these guys get 30 days, like, you can't hide that Twitch is being very fucking biased anymore. All of us know that they're biased, right? We've seen all the Twitch thottery going on where, like, you can show your full vagina, spread it for the camera, and get, like, a 3-day suspension, right? But, like, now there's, like, tangible proof of them doing it differently for the same exact content. And the more that this kind of stuff comes out, the, like, less Twitch can sort of sweep it under the rug, I feel. And I hope that, especially because Ethan Klein is in the position to, like, do something about this, that maybe he can get Twitch to move. Not that I like Ethan Klein. He's done a lot of fucking weird shit in recent years, but, you know, still good to see a bad thing happen in regards to Twitch having to put their money where their mouth is.
And that's the thing, is you don't have to like either of these people to see the hypocrisy that's going on here at all.
Yeah.
But apparently what happened was, you know, he got banned for 30 days. And we actually watched the full clip on his stream where he apparently was warned at like 1:17 in the morning. And then they got banned at like 3 o'clock or maybe, you know, whatever, it was 1:17 in the afternoon, whatever it was. They said like there was a 90-minute window where he got a warning and then he got banned for the hateful content. And you kind of see the response here where people talking about Dan Clancy, the CEO of Twitch, and how he's in love with.
Told you they were gay together.
Well, it's been well established. Very clear. Twitch is doubling down on their favorism here, and the H3 subreddit finds out that H3 snark backup Reddit was mass reporting content nuke with multiple posts on the subreddit. So it looks like in a situation like this, there was an organized mass banning campaign in this situation.
So weird.
Yes, by people who are so ingrained with their ideology that they felt the need that just having that information out there was seen as a negative, which once again, they were banned for hateful content, for showing content of the guy who was just banned for only 24 hours. But in turn, they got banned for 30.
And like even if they get unbanned early, like nobody is going to take that in good faith. They're just going to be like, oh, Twitch was, you know, noticing the backlash. They didn't want to have to explain themselves, and they thought that it would all just go away if they unbanned them early, right? It kind of reminds me of like Asmongold caught a ban for someone in his in-game chat like saying the N-word, because streamers are responsible for like any chat that shows up on their screen. And he got unbanned early from that, and he was just like, what do they want me to do? I tried ignoring it to not bring attention to it. Do I have to go on some spiel about like, oh, I disavow, this is terrible, blah blah blah? And it's like, yeah, anytime something comes up, I go on like a really fucking tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, this is terrible, how could this happen, what an awful thing. Like, they're allowed to say it, but I don't condone. Because like if you don't do something like that, you're at risk of like catching a suspension for it, and it's the dumbest thing.
Well, you mentioned about him being unbanned, because Twitch has apparently unbanned H3 since this has happened.
Nostradamus, Foxu.
That's right. Quickly unbanned from Twitch after much hoopla here, and Pirate Nations' guess they realized how hypocritical they're being with banning H3 and not Hassan right here. So this does look like it was a coordinated campaign, but at the same time, I mean, this is. I'm shocked at how openly biased Twitch has been with Hassan throughout all this. I mean, and it speaks, this is from the bottom, from the moderation team, all the way to the top with the CEO, how open they are about their biases with this person. Because the things that he says on a day-to-day basis are vile, and they do break terms of service, and they're just choosing not to enforce those terms of service at all.
I think it's doubly insane because Twitch pretends that like, oh, we have to apply these suspensions and these bans to other streamers because think of the advertisers. They don't like this content. But it's completely fine for Hassan to like advocate for terrorists and to want a sitting, you know, conservative senator, whatever he was, to be killed. That's fine for advertisers. That's okay.
Right. And like the fact, like, we saw this yesterday. Critical Drinker responded to the idea of him being banned for 24 hours. Like, that'll really teach him. Like, what lesson are you teaching Hassan by giving him a day off? You're like, well, you don't have to stream. It's okay. You know,
for only one day.
Right. Congratulations. It's amazing to see. Do you think that we'll see a day where Twitch rights the ship a little bit and has the standard equated to everybody equally?
Not until the entire staff at Twitch as it is gutted and replaced by people who genuinely like streaming as a concept instead of seeing streaming as a way to permeate the specific ideology they want to have disseminated through streamers they use as talking heads, which is probably why Hassan doesn't face almost any repercussion, is because most of the staff, probably the CEO, is a gooner. He doesn't really care about whatever's going on politically, but he's like, yeah, most people agree with Hassan, so we might as well let him keep talking because he's going to get more people to agree with him, and that's going to be better in the long run. It's the same as the video game industry. You need the ideologues to get fired. You need them to be out of the industry, and then things can finally start basically course correcting. And I wouldn't want it to go in the other way either. I wouldn't want censorship to apply to, you know, like people who ideologically completely disagree with me but aren't trying to cause harm.
Right. You know, I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I think that the video game industry, you know, the tech industry, they could, what Elon Musk did with Twitter of just firing everything, and what we're seeing with like Doge as well, this idea of like scorched earth and then we'll figure it out, that needs to be done in the video game industry. That can be done in every, like, I'll say 80% of the studios out there. They're all bloated. They're all ridiculously filled with people who were looking to get into video games and ultimately wanted to inject their ideology. And to be clear, there are really good people who work in the video game industry. Just want to be really clear. Not everybody's an ideologue. Some people just want to make great games. But I do feel 80% of the companies could cut their staff 80%, and everything would be just fucking fine.
And I've been very consistent on this when I come on your show as well. And it's like, I'm glad that there is a reckoning in the game industry where so many people are losing their jobs. I feel bad for the real developers who have a passion for this, who want to just make games. And I hope they can go to a studio that values them and they can stay in the industry and keep a job somewhere else. But as far as all the ideologues, they've ruined this for everyone. They've ruined it for the developers who care, for the writers who care, for the composers who care, for the consumers who want good products. They're the reason all of this rot is so bad, and so I hope they get fired, and I hope they can't get back into the game industry.
Well, they always fall up. We know that. They always fall up, and we've seen people like the idea that the marketing person for Concord, which was probably the worst marketed game in history, can then get a job anywhere else. It says everything you need to know about the video game industry. Like if you have the biggest failure ever in video games, you should just go to another industry. Just quit. Just go somewhere else because it's not working out very well. Hey, you made it this far. You might as well subscribe, right? Right?